You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hi, everyone. On this installment of the 7 Days of Christmas, we're talking about the music of Addressing Gettysburg. This is an example of some of the extra stuff that you get for being a patron over there. So the narrative episodes are quite popular. They get good numbers. I get a lot of great feedback from them. And they're even made fun of in other circles, which tells me that I'm doing it right. So one of the things that we do in those narrative episodes is we have music. And music is something that whenever possible, you want to have the ownership of the recordings or licensing or whatever. Now, licensing is expensive, but if you record it yourself, then, you have no problems. And luckily, through doing Addressing Gettysburg, I have met some really fantastic musicians who are very gracious and willing to work on this project with me and volunteer their time and talents. And that's how we're able to get the music that we use in Addressing Gettysburg. In some cases, it is stuff that is in the public domain. In other cases, I have permission from the artists to use, they'll send me a CD and they'll say, yeah, you can use it, just give us credit. And in other cases, I'm actually out there recording it with the musicians. And so a lot of people compliment us on the music, and I decided, well, let me do an episode or two about the music of Addressing Gettysburg. And so that's what we did. That's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward. Why don't we get right to it? It's the music of Addressing Gettysburg, available over on patreon.com. Among many other things, please consider becoming a patron to support the show today. And happy holidays.
Hello, patrons. It's the holiday season, and I thought I'd give you a little extra something as a gift. So, ho, ho, ho. One of the things I'm most proud of with the whole Addressing Gettysburg thing is the music that I use in the narrative episodes. A good deal of it is used with permission from the artists. It's already been recorded. They just, either send me a CD, like in the case of the Federal City Brass Band, or it's available on YouTube with basically a little thing that says you're free to use it. Just give us credit, like the California Consolidated Drum Band does for the fife and drum music. Other music is provided by my friend Rick Garland, for example, of Harper's Ferry Ghost Tours and O.B. Joyful Historical Tours and Entertainment. Years ago, I met Rick here in Gettysburg. He and his friend Bill had a little act that they would do called O.B. Joyful, and they would do Civil War music. Bill had a great voice. Rick's got a great voice as well. He's also the piano player. And they would tell stories about the songs, the history of the songs, and then they would perform them in the bars locally. And of course, I was going to bars a lot at that point. So, of course, I got to know these guys. And I contacted Rick when I decided that, I was going to do the narrative episodes the way I do them. And I said, hey, can I use your music? And he said, sure. So he sent me the CD. But other stuff I had to produce myself. Now, I don't play banjo. I barely can play guitar. I don't play fiddle. I literally cannot get a single nice sounding note out of a fiddle. I've tried, and people have tried to teach me. Can't do it. I do play piano, but you know what? I don't want to record myself. I want to record people who are practiced. I'm out of practice. So we have some people who are musicians that have been doing this all along and all this other stuff. So we have, people that I know who are musicians, and they are practiced and they are continually playing. And I said, would you please let me record you playing these songs? And then they said yes. And then I said, great. And then we would go through different things, which I'll explain as we go along. Anyway, I thought you might enjoy listening to some of the music that I use in the Antietam through Chancellorsville episode and the upcoming episode 2, Invasion, June 1863, without my voice over it. So you can actually hear the songs. So let's start with a song that I've always loved. You hear it in the Ken Burns documentary quite often. It's a very sad sounding song. And that's why I'm sure he used it, and that's why I'm using it. It's called Johnny Has Gone for a Soldier. Also, this goes right into the battle cry of freedom. This is actually found a few times, I believe, in episode 1, Antietam to Chancellorsville. And it's Rick Garland of O.B. Joyful playing Johnny Has Gone for a Soldier and the battle cry of freedom. So let's take a listen to that right now. a favorite Civil War figure from my youth was General Custer, and I think a lot of young boys are attracted to General Custer because he was young, he was youthful and vibrant and daring, and he dressed like a clown. It's also because of him that my favorite Civil War song to this day probably is Gary Owen, which also happens to be my favorite pub in town, and it's within crawling distance of my house, so it's perfect. But anyway, here's Rick from O.B. Joyful playing Gary Owen on the piano. Now, I haven't found a place for this song yet in any of the episodes that are currently produced or in production, but I will find a place later because it's just beautiful. And I thought you'd love to hear the beautiful voice of Rick's partner in O.B. Joyful, Bill, as he sings Johnny We Hardly Knew Ye, or Johnny I Hardly Knew Ye, which goes into When Johnny Comes Marching Home. So enjoy.
While going the road to sweet Athy, hurroo, hurroo. While going the road to sweet Athy, hurroo, hurroo. While going the road to sweet Athy, a stick in me hand, a drop in me eye, a doleful damsel I heard cry, ach, Johnny, I hardly knew ye. With their drums and guns and guns and drums, the enemy nearly slew ye. Ach, John, me dear, you look so queer. Johnny, I hardly knew ye. You haven't an arm and you haven't a leg, hurroo, hurroo. You haven't an arm and you haven't a leg, hurroo, hurroo. You haven't an arm and you haven't a leg, you're an eyeless, noseless, chickenless egg. You'll have to be put with a ball to beg. Ach, Johnny, I hardly knew ye. When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. The men will cheer and the boys will shout and the ladies, they will all turn out and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. The old church bell will peal with joy, hurrah, hurrah, to welcome home our darling boy, hurrah, hurrah. The village lads and lassies say with roses they will strew the way and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Get ready for the Jubilee, hurrah, hurrah. hurrah. We'll give the hero 3 times 3, hurrah, hurrah. The laurel wreath is ready now to place upon his loyal brow. We'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Let love and friendship on that day, hurrah, hurrah. Their choicest treasures and display, hurrah, hurrah. And let each one perform some part to fill with joy the warrior's heart. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. And we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home.
Now, what is a Civil War soundtrack without banjo? Dusty Lee Elmer is a musician I found on Instagram and approached about recording some songs for the show. He graciously acquiesced and recorded a handful of songs for me. Some requested, some were just ones that he knew that were of the era. Others aren't necessarily of the era, but sound like they could fit in there. And so here are some of the ones that I've used so far in episodes 1 and 2. This one is called The Girl I Left Behind Me. Here's another one from Dusty Lee Elmer. It's called The Year of Jubilo. Now, this next one is called Old Joe. Now, this next one here is called Engine Rubber Overcoat. That's a tongue twister. Engine Rubber Overcoat. And I use this song as kind of the theme song for a cat that we introduced in episode 2 called William Grumble Jones. The man wore blue jeans and a corduroy jacket, I believe. Or is it corduroy? Yeah, something like that. But he, his nickname was Grumble. He was kind of a grumpy guy, and he and Stuart kind of don't get along. But I introduced him for a number of reasons, which I hope will become evident to you as you listen to the episodes as they play out. But anyway, just take a listen to this song, and you'll hear why. Like, you kind of could picture a grumpy old disheveled man when you hear this song. It's almost kind of comical, but this is what I use for him. This one is called Abraham's Daughter. This is actually not a Gettysburg era song, but it's Civil War. I mean, I'm not being very particular with the music as far as when it came out goes. As long as it came out before or during the Civil War, I'm fine with that. So Dusty Lee Elmer performing Abraham's Daughter. This one is another Dusty Lee Elmer song, and it's called Booger Man. I don't know anything about this song, but that's what it is. Here's another one from Dusty. I believe this is the last one so far of the ones that I've used. This one is called Bully for You, and this was also used in episode 1. Bully for You, Dusty Lee Elmer. Now, banjo is neat, but banjo and fiddle can't be beat. Or fiddle alone, for that matter, at least in my book. Next up, we have music from Danny and Sarah, or Sarah and Danny. They don't have any official name as a duo, so you could take your pick. Sarah Larson and Danny Stewart were people that I met last spring. They were actually customers at Getty's Bike Tours. And they kept the bikes out past closing and felt bad that they kept me. So they invited me over to their RV, which was right in the parking lot, for dinner. And a friend shipped for them. And, I'm easily bought food and beer. That's about it. And then they have a cute dog, and that's it. Anyway, a few months later, they were coming to town and for a few gigs. And they asked if they could park the RV in my driveway. And, of course, I said yes, because it'll save them some money. And we spent the whole weekend together. It was great. We hung out. I took them up to the Peace Light at sunset one night with their instruments. And they did we did a live video on Instagram there. And they played, and a crowd gathered, and it was really neat. And the next day, I took my recorder into the RV, and we recorded songs for the show. Now, we're going to start with my favorite one. It's called Bear Waltz, which is not a Civil War song. And I'm sure you've guessed by now that my style is, I could say heavily influenced by Ken Burns, but let's be honest, it's basically ripping off Ken Burns' style. And he may have gotten a lot of facts wrong, but he's spot on with his art, and that's why I and probably everybody since him has copied his style. But anyway, the most famous thing to come out of that series, besides the style of filmmaking and storytelling, is probably the theme song, Ashokan Farewell. It's a beautiful and moving. The people thought that it had to be a Civil War song, but it's not. It's just beautiful. I had secretly hoped in the back of my mind when I was brainstorming Addressing Gettysburg that I'd find a musician who could write my Ashokan Farewell, but to ask someone to do that would be forced, and it would show. It would come through. Now, as luck would have it, though, Sarah kept talking about Bear Waltz to Danny. Bear Waltz this, Bear Waltz that. And finally I said, what the hell are you talking about? What's Bear Waltz? And she told me it was a song that she wrote a while back, and I asked her to play me a bit of it. And the first few notes came out, and I stopped her, and I said, that's it. I found my Ashokan Farewell. Let's record. And we did. And so here is Danny and Sarah, or Sarah and Danny, playing Bear Waltz as Sarah wrote it. Pretty. I love that song. There's something about that song. I don't know what it is, and that's the sign of a great song. So when you have a theme song, though, you need to play it throughout, but the theme song has to be recorded in different ways to express different emotions. You got to do it a happy way and an upbeat way. You got to do it a very sad and melancholy way. And so that's what we did. We had Sarah and Danny play it through. And then I said to Sarah, okay, Sarah, now I want you to just play the melody, but I want you to do it really slow. And then she started playing. I said, no, slower. And she started playing it slower. No, slower than that. Slower than that. And then finally it got to what it is in the beginning of episode 2. So I'm going to play that for you now so that you don't have to think back to the preview that you heard of episode 2. Here is Sarah playing Sad Bear Waltz. Now, there's something about the melody and the melody being played on the fiddle. So I had her do it not only slow, but I also had her do it just the fiddle, no guitar, at regular speed. And here it is. Now, here's something that I'm kind of embarrassed about. I keep forgetting to ask them. I don't know the name of this song. There's, I think, 2 or 3 songs in here that I don't know the name of, but they're all pretty good. So I'm going to put them in here. I'm calling this one, don't know the name of this one, number 1. And if any of you guys do know the name of it, please put it in the comment section below. So here's Danny and Sarah playing Don't Know the Name of This One. This is another one out of episode 2 from Danny and Sarah. This one is called, guess what this is called? Another One I Don't Know the Name of. So here we go. And here, believe it or not, is Another One I Don't Know the Name of 2. Now, a lot of people know Elvis Presley, whether you grew up listening to him or he's just a vestige of the past that you've heard about from older people. And everybody knows one of his most famous songs ever is Love Me Tender. Well, Love Me Tender, the melody for Love Me Tender, actually comes from a Civil War song called Aura Lee. And so when we got to do this, it's a nice melody. I don't care if everybody thinks it's Love Me Tender. That just shows what you don't know. So I asked her, I said, do you know Aura Lee? And she said, no, I've never heard that one. And I said, do you know Love Me Tender? And she said, yeah. And I said, that's Aura Lee. And she's like, really? And I go, yeah. And so I said, just play Love Me Tender. So you actually, if you listen closely to it, you'll hear that she's thinking Love Me Tender and the words to Love Me Tender as she's doing this. And she's doing this all just like picking it out by ear, by the way. But Aura Lee actually, I think, has one less beat, not beat, but note, I think, in the phrase. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, it doesn't matter. It's a little different, but it's basically the same. So take a listen here to Danny and Sarah. This is just Sarah on the fiddle playing Aura Lee. as you might be able to tell, I just love the sound of the fiddle alone playing something, a sweet, sad melody. So here's another one that comes in handy, especially when you're doing a podcast telling the story of a war, which is very sad. This is called Home Sweet Home by Danny and Sarah. Okay, so remember before when we were talking about Bear Waltz, how sometimes it helps to have a couple of different versions of a song. So this is a song that we all grew up singing as little kids. We were taught it in preschool or kindergarten and, didn't think much of it. But it actually goes way back when. And it wasn't a children's song always. It was actually just a popular song. I believe it was Stephen Foster who wrote it. It's called Oh, Susanna. So you see, very short, again, this is to be played under something as a transition or something like that. Or I said again, but this really isn't again. These songs are short. They're pieces of the song added to add color or to evoke an emotion or something like that. I don't need an entire 2-minute song, although sometimes I do, and then I find myself having to get creative. But anyway, so Oh Susanna comes in handy for a couple of different reasons. You'll see why as we go through the free episodes as they come out. But here is another version of it, but this time I told her, pluck it. And so she plucked it. And there you go. You have Oh Susanna plucked. Shenandoah is a beautiful song from that time. And, well, what more do I have to say? Here's Sarah playing Shenandoah. Now, this one, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's from listening to the Howard Stern show when I was growing up, but every time I think of the South, I think of this song. It's Turkey in the Straw. Now, I had Danny and Sarah play 2 versions of Turkey in the Straw on banjo and fiddle, but there's not that much of a difference between them, so I'm only going to just leave that one in there. But I did have Sarah pluck it, because plucking gives it a different feeling and a different mood. So here's Turkey in the Straw, plucked. Here's something that is, of course, we've already heard it on this upload so far with Obi Joyful doing it, but it is a beautiful melody. It's haunting, it's sad, and so it comes in handy a lot, and so I need to have it in as many instrumentations and styles as I possibly can get it, so it doesn't become stale when I use it. So there's several versions of these, but this is all short. So here we go with it's When Johnny Comes Marching Home. Here's Danny and Sarah playing When Johnny Comes Marching Home, as you're used to hearing it. I said, okay, great. You did it all the way through. Now I needed a little bit shorter, just as a little tag at the end of a battle or something like that. So she gave me this. But then I said, that's a sad song, and when Johnny comes marching home, he's coming home. Maybe he's coming home in defeat. So give me something sad. And so this is what she did. Someone who has been so invaluable to me is Pearl Shannon. Pearl, she answered an ad that I had for voice actors, and she was like, I can do this. I'm an actress. I know other actors, all this jazz. And so I was like, okay, great. She's up in New York, but she comes down here to Gettysburg very often. She loves it here. She loves the history. She's just all about it. So Pearl, ended up like, I made her my director, because even the director needs to be directed when he's acting. So I have her direct me when I read the narrations. And she also, her mom is a musician. And so she got her mom here, and we've had a couple of recording sessions. One of them we had over at my friend's farm. And then another one we had at the Battlefield B&B, which is down on the Emmitsburg Road. And we got to actually go into their barn where they have their wedding receptions, and it was completely empty. So it was this awesome barn echo in there, but you also can hear the sound of birds chirping because there were birds in there, and I think I did a pretty decent job of getting rid of the highway noise because you could hear Route 15 a few miles away. But anyway, so let's play some of that stuff there. Now she plays trumpet, flugelhorn, mandolin, guitar. She's just a jack of all trades, her mom, Kelly. So let's see, what can we do here? So what I had her do is I want some trumpet stuff, and I want, mainly sad trumpet stuff to play. I mean, we're talking, when the Confederates are losing here. So you might not hear any of these for a few episodes yet. But anyway, let's get to them. First of all, let's give you something, I don't know. We'll call it Maryland, My Maryland. How about that? Now, a lot of you may be saying, wait a second, that's Oh Christmas Tree. Well, it's Maryland, My Maryland, too. Now, but because I had this awesome room to work with, I said, well, let's play with it a little bit here. So, one time we'll do a take with the microphone right in front of her. And then another time I'll do a take where I'm on the other side of the barn or something like that. And I'm just recording the echo, basically. So that's this here. This is the second version of Maryland, My Maryland. Okay, now this one is fun. This is called Soldier's Joy, and it's something that she's playing on, it's not, what is it called now? A dulcimer. It's a different kind of dulcimer, though. It's the one with the stick. But anyway, she's playing it, and I'm playing percussion on my knee. So you hear like a, that's my knee. It sounds more like this here. Look, it's like this. Isn't that exciting? So you can hear that in the background there with her, we're playing along with her there. It's called Soldier's Joy. It's Kelly Shannon and Me on the Knee. Now, again, Shenandoah is one of those beautiful melodies. It's very haunting, and it could be used well, or it could be used for, something sad or whatever it may be. So anyway, here's Kelly doing Shenandoah on trumpet. So, of course, what good is a Confederate retreat or defeat or whatever you want to call it if you can't have Dixie playing very somberly in the background? Here I'm going to give you, there's 5 versions of this, but there's such slight differences between them. I'm only going to give you 3. I'm going to give you the bottom and the middle and the top, or the first and the middle and the end, or whatever you want to call it, and the last, or whatever. But this is Dixie on trumpet. It's beautiful. It's haunting. Now, the echoes that you're hearing are manipulated digitally, so this isn't the barn echo. This is done in the barn, but the echo that you're hearing, the sense of space that you get from this is actually all done digitally. And the reason for it is I wanted to have a sense of closeness, or the further away it gets and the more echo there is, that's going to give it more of a haunting feeling. So anyway, so this is it, Dixie, and it's going to be one after the other. Dixie 1, Dixie 2, or actually Dixie 1, Dixie 3, Dixie 5. Now, of course, like I said, when Johnny Comes Marching Home, you got to have different versions of it. So this one is mandolin. It's Kelly Shannon, and it is done. Actually, I believe this is in episode 1. I want to say it's after Chancellorsville, but I'm not sure. Anyway, when Johnny Comes Marching Home on mandolin, it's a quick one. Now, my favorite, I think the most beautiful song from that period is a song called Lorena. It's a very sad, haunting melody. There's a lot of sad, haunting melodies. But this one is, to me, it takes the cake. And you don't need to know the words. You don't even need to know the name. But you could put this song with just about anything sad. And, God, if it'll at least give you a chill up the spine if it's done right. And it should make you cry if it's done perfectly. So here's Pearl Shannon singing and her mother Kelly Shannon playing the guitar on Lorena. And this is the version as heard on episode 1. Now, when we were recording in the barn at Battlefield Bed and Breakfast, Pearl had wanted to do a song called Waterboy. And I didn't really know what the context of it would be for this podcast, but I was like, well, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So I said, sure, let's do it. So we worked it out. It's a cool, it's very bluesy. It comes from the slave days, the call for the water boy. Because, imagine out in those cotton fields, it's hot. So you're calling for the water boy. It's a folk song, and it was, of course, in the 1920s. It was published for the first time, and then it became, more popular, and it's been recorded several times by lots of different people. Fitting in with Gettysburg, I don't know. I don't really know where it's going to fit in, but it's got to go somewhere, and I think Pearl did a great job on it. It's just one of those great blues songs where you just belt it out from your diaphragm. You just right down there and you just belt it out. And so we had this big barn, a lot of space, nice echoey sound. You'll hear the sound of a chain dropping. There's a guitar and there's a chain dropping and there's Pearl singing. Pearl actually, I think, is also dropping the chain. I recorded it. I'd had her drop the chain once or twice just to get a good one because there were people downstairs. The I guess basement or the part the basement of the barn is finished off, and there's guest rooms there, and there were guests there, and we didn't want to have to do take after take after take, dropping a chain on their heads. So we did it just a few times, and then I said, I'll go in and I'll drop them in time with the guitar because you'll hear. And I actually purposely made some of them go out of time so that it sounded like it was being done live. Anyway, you'll hear what I'm talking about. This is called Waterboy. It's Pearl and Kelly Shannon. and me on the editing machine. So have a good one with this one.
What a boy, where are you hiding? If you don't come right here, I'm gonna tell upon you. There ain't no hammer that's on this mountain that ring like mine, boy, that ring like mine. I'm gonna bust this rough boy from here to Macon, all the way to the jail, boy, all the way to the jail. Diamonds, you jack of diamonds. I know you're a bold boy, I know you're a bold. You done robbed my pockets, you done robbed my pockets. Silver and gold, boy, of silver and gold. No hammer that's on this mountain that ring like mine, boy, that ring like mine. I'm gonna bust this rock, boy, from here to Macon, all the way to the jail, boy, all the way to the jail. If you don't come right here, if you don't come right here, if you don't come right here, I'm gonna tell upon you.
All right, good.
Well, we've reached the end here. I want to thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And to play us out, my friend Billy Webster, who is a very talented singer-songwriter back in New Jersey, he's always been a supporter since I've met him of my podcast ventures. And one of the things I asked him to do when I started on this endeavor was to take my favorite Civil War song, Gary Owen, and I said, you know what? I think this can use kind of a modern rock makeover. And you're the guy that can do it. And would you try it? And he had never heard the song, so he listened to a bunch of different versions of it, you know, traditionally done. And this is what he came up with. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this whole thing. Again, thank you for being a patron. And let me know if there's anything else that I could produce for you that you might enjoy, and I will try my best to do it. Thanks a lot.
Let not your sons be not dismayed, but join with me, show your blade, boots and sing, and lend your aid to help me with the chorus. Instead of spar, we'll drink down ale and pay the reckoning on the nail. No man for debt shall go to jail from carrying on in glory. We'll break the windows, break the doors, the watch knocked down by 3s and 4s. Then let the doctors work their cures and tinker up our bruises. Instead of spar, we'll drink down ale and pay the reckoning on the nail. No man for debt shall go to jail from carrying on in glory. Our hearts hearts so stout have got us famed, for soon 'tis known from whence we came. Wherever we go, they dread the name of Gary Owen in glory. Instead of spa, we'll drink down